Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this great country that we are blessed to live in. We pray that you guide and protect and direct this city council on the issues that come before us. We pray that you keep all of our friends in the police and fire department safe and healthy. We pray for our elected officials in Washington for a sense of urgency in coming together to govern the United States. We pray for continued protection for our military here and overseas. And we thank you for all of our blessings that you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Pennington. The roll call, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Here.
Councilmember Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
Councilmember Pennington?
Here.
All present. The council meeting is now called to order. First on the agenda are certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have two this evening. C1 is a proclamation to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Troy Youth Assistance, and I'd like to make a presentation to TYA co-chair Carl Schmidt. If he would just meet me at the podium, I'd be honored to present this to him.
You're not going to roast me.
Roast you. I'm going to roast you. You just don't know it.
Okay, all right.
Can you meet me on the
Yeah.
Carl, it's an honor and privilege for me to present this proclamation to you celebrating 60 years Troy Youth Assistance, and I'd like to read this into the record. Whereas the Troy City Commission passed a resolution March 27th, 1958, providing for a Child and Youth Assistance Committee in the city of Troy and nominated 25 citizens representing schools, law enforcement, churches, and the community to come together as a committee. And whereas sponsored by Judge Arthur E. Moore of the Oakland County Juvenile Court, the committee was formed to work with children, authorities, and families on a pre-juvenile delinquent basis. And whereas Mayor Frank Costello selected the committee members and told them their job was to prevent youngsters from becoming court cases, and asked the committee to work closely with educators, law enforcement authorities, religious leaders, and parents to protect rather than prosecute. And whereas in 1971, Troy Youth Assistance began an employment service staffed by volunteers. They called upon local residents and business owners who had job opportunities such as babysitting, office work, house cleaning, and yard work, with hourly rates ranging from 75 cents to $1.50 for Troy teenagers per hour. And whereas the mission of the Troy Youth Assistance is to strengthen youth and families and to reduce the incidence of delinquency, abuse, and neglect through community involvement. Volunteers work with professional staff to develop enriching programs aimed at enhancing family and community relationships. And whereas over the years, Troy Youth Assistance has achieved many milestones, including success in innovative fundraising campaigns, overseeing teens managing the Boland Park concession stand, hosting teen dances, starting a banquet in 1973 to honor Troy young people who volunteer their time and energy in helping others, awarding camp scholarships to deserving youth, and recruiting volunteers to mentor young people for their Mentorus Plus program. And whereas throughout their 60-year history, Troy Youth Assistance has maintained a fine reputation for delivering tremendous value throughout the community. TYA has conducted surveys on family education programming, as well as hosted valuable educational workshops for parents on a variety of topics, including communicating with teens, developing responsible behavior in teens, and active, effective parenting. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the Troy City Council does hereby congratulate the Troy Youth Assistance on its 60th anniversary and recognizes its impact upon thousands and thousands of young people since 1958. And be it further resolved that the Troy City Council joins the citizens of this community in appreciation and celebration of Troy Youth Assistance 60th anniversary. Signed by myself, all members of City Council, this 7th day of May 2018. Please congratulate and pass upon our thanks to everyone with the TYA. Would you please do that, Carl?
I
Thank you so
absolutely
much.
will.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Actually, can I face you, or should I face the...
What do you want to do?
Oh, well, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're doing right now, and just thank you. You can have a seat back unless you want to. You want to stay right here. I'm really humbled to receive this on behalf of countless volunteers over the years. It's a beautiful declaration. There's nothing to add because you've explained everything that we do, but I will tell all of you that this is a labor of love for all of us who are involved in Troy Youth Assistance. It's something that is near and dear to all of our hearts, and it's really exciting to us that we've had such consistent support from the city over all these years. I actually handed out our annual report so everyone can have a look at that and see what we're doing with the money and the funds that you're providing. And I wanted to just tell you a little bit about a couple of things that we're focusing on for next year, if you'd like. I just want to give you a sense for, I told you when I was here last year, I'll let you know if the needs are increasing, and what we're seeing is that this year they really are. When we look at our referrals on a monthly basis, a year ago we averaged 6 to 7 referrals of youth a month. This year we're averaging 14. Last month we had 12 referrals. A year ago we had 2. To give you an idea of that growth. And it's not just Troy, it's Oakland County. Oakland County in March logged the highest number of referrals that they'd ever received, 420 for the county. And the thing that we're seeing is that the concerns and the impacts and the issues are happening at a younger and younger age. So one of the things that we're doing right now is we're pursuing some outside grant work to see if we can fund wraparound services for the new early childhood center that the Troy School District is building to provide parental coaching, to provide access to English language learners, to make sure that they can find the resources they need in order to effectively parent. So recognizing that the need is getting younger, we're shifting and knowing that we have to maintain what we're doing with our current age group, but we have to figure out a way to try to reach some people sooner so that hopefully in 10 years they won't be back with other problems. So the reason we can do that is because you've provided us with this ongoing funding that's allowed us to have a very stable financial base right now. We just had our executive board meeting this morning, and it's nice to look at our budget for the year we're closing out, and we're doing very well. We're holding our assets right where we want them to, and we're providing the good work that you provided the money for us to do. So thank you again. As I said, I'm just one little guy here, and it's really an honor to be able to receive this. I'll make sure that everyone sees it. We'll have it hung in a very prominent place within the offices and pointed out. So we really are appreciative of everything you do for us. Thank you. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is C2, which is a proclamation to celebrate the National Association of Letter Carriers' 26th Annual Food Drive Day on May 12th, 2018. And I'd like to make this presentation to NALC Food Drive Coordinator Alex Viviano. and Alex is coming forward. Hi, Alex. I'm good. How are you? Good to see you. Alex, I'd like to present this proclamation to you on behalf of the City Council and City of Troy, as long as my voice holds up here. This proclamation is for the National Association of Letter Carriers 26th Annual Food Drive Day, May 12, 2018. Whereas America's Second Harvest reports that 50 million Americans, which is approximately 1 in 6, are hungry or at risk of hunger, and 37 million Americans receive emergency food assistance from large and small food banks across the nation. And whereas 17 million children, which are approximately 1 in 5, and 9 million seniors who live in the United States at a poverty level receive food assistance. 1 in 4 people in a soup kitchen line is a child. And whereas poverty adversely affects birth weight, abuse and neglect, education, and the general health of our children and our senior citizens. And whereas the National Association of Letter Carriers, which is NALC, in conjunction with United States Postal Service, USPS, is sponsoring the 26th Annual NALC National Food Drive to Stamp Out Hunger on Saturday, May 12, 2018. And whereas NALC Branch 3126 in the City of Troy is participating in the National Food Drive, the largest one-day food drive in the nation, because the cost of inaction is too high, particularly in the face of many negative outcomes for our children and community which are preventable. And whereas more than 1,400 local branches of the 300,000 member Postal Union collected a record 80 million pounds of food in last year's drive for local food banks, pantries, and shelters, helping families throughout the nations. More than 1.5 billion pounds of food has been donated through the quarter-century history of the Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day. So now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Troy hereby proclaim Saturday, May 12, 2018 as National Association of Letter Carriers Food Drive Day in the City of Troy, in celebration of 26 years of generosity and community support. And be it further resolved that we invite all Troy residents to leave non-perishable food at their mailboxes on Saturday, May 12, 2018, to support our local letter carriers in their 26th annual food drive to help alleviate hunger in our community and throughout the nation. Presented this 7th day of May 2018, once again is signed by myself, all members of City Council. Congratulations to the letter carriers, and thank you so much for what you do to stamp out hunger. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Just like to thank everybody for participating in our food drive every year. This is our 26th year. Last year, Troy itself, we probably made over 29,000 pounds of food. All our food that we collect in Troy goes to the local food bank in Gleaners and Pontiac, so all your food stays locally. Again, from me and my letter carriers at my office, I appreciate this very much, and I appreciate the City Council for all your support and everything every year. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
That concludes certificates of recognition and special presentations. There are no carryover items this evening. So we will move to public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening, which is the adoption of the 2018-19 annual city budget and three-year budget, 2018-19, 2019-20, and 2020-21. I'll call upon Acting City Manager Mark Miller to make the introduction. Or do you want me to call on Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. I will start with an introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Before you have a public hearing for our three-year budget, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank staff at all department levels and divisions of those departments, because the department heads, the superintendents, the managers, and all the way down to frontline staff contribute to the development of this budget. And then they send a huge amount of data to Tom Darling, our financial services director, who takes this huge data dump and assembles it and puts it into a document that is presented to you this evening and at our previous two study sessions. I just would like to note that this includes the city's acting city manager's proposed budget in fiscal year 2018-19. In the general fund, $64,890,900, and the city council directed police traffic unit of $592,540. And then that carries out for the next two fiscal years. With this, I would like to refer to Tom Darling to give a quick summary of the budgets.
Thank you, Mark. Tom, before you start, I want to open this public hearing, and now we can start with you.
Great, thank you. Mayor, City Council, what you have in front of you is the budget that was proposed by Acting City Manager Miller. It represents total city appropriations of $165.7 million, including $65.5 million in the general fund, as Mark alluded to, not only what was proposed, but again for the additional traffic safety unit. The budget is balanced, I'm happy to say, and it conforms to the city's unassigned fund balance policy. In other words, we have a policy to get into that 20 to 30% unassigned fund balance. And finally, I'd like to say that we plan on submitting this budget to the Governmental Finance Officers Association for consideration for the Distinguished Budget Award.
Thank you. Any questions for City Administration from Council? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item this evening? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing, return it to the table for resolution. Councilman Pennington.
I'd like to move E1, adoption of the 2018-2019 annual city budget and three-year budget, 2018-19, 2019-20, and 2020-2021 as printed.
Support.
By Councilman Pennington, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, that we approve E1, which is the adoption of the 2018-19 annual city budget and three-year budget, 2018-19, 2019-20, and 2020-2021, as printed in the agenda packet. Discussion? Councilman Hamilton.
I just wanted to thank staff, Mark, Tom, Nino, everyone who helped me in my first year understand this very complicated and detailed topic. So thank you very much. You guys did an amazing job.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Councilwoman Hoderick.
I think we need to also acknowledge the time the Financial Ideas team, the citizen group that came together to help vet and give us input. And the traffic safety unit was, a resounding supported item from that group. And appreciate staff taking the time for that extra layer of sense checking and input. And this looks extremely anticlimactic when we come in tonight and approve this. There was, I'm still cross-eyed from looking at numbers. The month of April is budget study month for us, and we spend a lot of time looking at this. Staff starts early in the year, so we don't want this to look like it's just a rubber stamp event that no thought went into there. If you don't watch study sessions and whatnot, you might not have a sense of the amount of time we've spent to put together a budget that serves our community well, protects our AAA bond rating, and we can be very proud of moving forward. So thank you to everyone involved.
Thank you. Are there comments from council? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes. Just like to echo thanks to everyone for their hard work. Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. I'll call upon James Savage, Troy resident, wishes to speak on H1. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. I'd just like to put my 10 cents worth in regarding the selection of a new city manager. I guess my first pick was, without doubt, would be Mike Culpepper. Now, I'm aware that he's been retired for a long time, but I'm wondering if with a lot of persuasion, he might be coaxed back. I think Mr. Culpepper has demonstrated his ability to manage the city. His heart is here, and I think he would be, without doubt, the man. He filled in as an interim some years ago and did a great job. And certainly at this time, I think he would be well prepared to come back. And like I say, his heart is in the city. And in fact, while in college, our son worked for Mr. Culpepper in the streets department, and that was over 40 years ago, so it goes back a long time. Another possible pick would be former assistant manager John Laminato. He was the best applicant when Mr. Nelson left. I think that was around 2009. But mysteriously, someone had a phone call and John Zerlag was available. Now, at that time, as I recall, John Zerlag's name was not even on the list. So I always felt there was something fishy about the way that came about. And another possible person might be the former city clerk, Tony Bartholomew. She knew the city inside out, whether she would be interested. I had the rumor at that time she might be interested way back then. Whether she is now or not, I don't know. Or possibly Mr. Nelson himself might be interested in coming back. I guess that's the only names I can think of. I hope some of these comments might be taken into consideration. But you know, at times, I guess I've been thought to be a little critical at these meetings, but I do have some good positive news, if I might take up another minute or so, and that is to announce that we have a dance coming up this Thursday at the community center, and I'd like to note that last month we started our 5th year of monthly dances. And it was great. And not only was it a big social success, but it was also a financial success. After paying the band, could I get another minute?
Is there consensus from the table to waive the rules and allow him to speak for one more minute? Okay, Mr. Savage.
This is all good stuff. You'll like it. After paying the band, we made $230 to go to the community center. The annual Troy High School Senior Citizen Ball was a great success. Some of you have been there. And this is the event where we see people of ages from 14 to 94, an 80-year span, of people joining together and dancing. You've seen it before. And it's just absolutely great. And the one thing is that we're dancing to the same good American music, the Glenn Miller and Tommy Dorsey stuff. And the kids love it. The ballroom dance program in Troy has been doing fine for 4 years, thanks in part to Miss Torvanen and her part-time staff. They take care of the setups, the coffee, the scheduling. You can cut me off.
That's your extra minute, Mr. Savage.
Okay, well,
we know it's a great event, and
yeah, and
what's the date again?
It's this Thursday.
Okay.
It's every Thursday, and you know when you go in there, it's like Cheers. Everybody knows your name, and incidentally, we have the best ballroom in the area right here in Troy. Thank you all,
okay.
And
thank you, Mr.
Hope we see you on Thursday. You're all welcome.
Thank you. Next, our City Council or administrative response to public comment. Any response from council or administration? Next is H1, the postponed item, executive search city manager. There is a resolution that was presented and on the table for discussion. Does council want that reread into the record so that we know what the discussion is? Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move H1, executive search for city manager.
Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry, that's been moved and seconded already.
Yeah, I just wanted, in case somebody needed to be
It's
refreshed.
being clear.
Okay, thank you. This is just a refresh so everyone knows what the resolution is.
All right. Resolved, the Troy City Council hereby awards a contract as a result of the best value process to the executive search firm Strategic Government Resources of Keller, Texas, at the proposal pricing contained in the bid tabulation, a copy of which shall be attached to the original minutes of this meeting. Be it finally resolved that the award is contingent upon the firm's submission of properly executed proposal and contract documents, satisfactory references, insurance certificates, and all other specified requirements.
Thank you, Councilman Henderson. Discussion on the motion. Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to thank Councilman Henderson for filling in the blank at the last meeting so we could get a proposal on the table to talk through the executive search. It's a big decision, certainly worthy of conversation in dialogue regarding what might be the best fit for the city. So for those who are watching, this executive search isn't just picking a name out of a hat of who's going to vet potential candidates. It's a partnership with this firm. They come to the city to understand what's a priority for us. What is our community about? What do we value? It's about understanding who we are so that they can find the candidates that best fit what this community is all about. It's not a short process. It's one that engages the community. And while City Council is the one that hires the city manager, there is community engagement sessions which have been done in the past, and I would certainly support going forward, because while the city manager may report to us, he serves 80,000 people. So it's no small decision that we have. Just as important as any budget that we may pass that has a $65 million budget. The RFP drew 5 names, or 5 candidates came out of the RFP process. And as Councilman Henderson read into the record, Strategic Government Resources is the name of the search firm, executive search firm that we inserted into the resolution so that we could start some discussion. All five executive search firms brought something to the table and are all strong candidates. Since this resolution is specific to Strategic Government Resources, I'll tailor my comments a little bit more towards them. They are based out of Texas, while They don't just serve the people of Texas, they've served municipalities throughout the country, including some in Michigan. And while they are certainly a strong candidate, my preference would not be a firm that's based out of Texas. I would prefer one that it's either based out of Michigan or has branches in Michigan. And for that reason, my preference is for the Michigan Municipal League. I think there is a stronger sense of understanding of what's important to Southeast Michigan in particular, and then also statewide issues and how those impact Troy and where we stand on multiple issues. We are a member of the MML, and they have served us very well in terms of resources and support for numerous initiatives that we have been engaged in. So while I mean no disrespect to the strategic government resources, myself personally, I think the MML would be a better fit for the search.
Thank you. Councilman Pennington?
I have a question. Which company is this one of these companies are the same company that we used 5 years ago in their search?
No.
So these are all new companies?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct, Mayor. It was.
I'm sorry.
It was the Mercer Group that did our search last time, and they are not among the 5 here.
Thank you.
Councilman Henderson.
Along those lines, did they just not respond to this particular RFP?
Yes, they were provided notice. They were one of the companies that was notified, and they did not respond.
Councilwoman Hoderick.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, of the 5 am inclined to look at the MML for multiple reasons, including I know they know our city well, this region well, the challenges in Lansing in terms of state revenue sharing challenges and whatnot, and could really assist us in finding a fit. One of the things that I am concerned about right now is the timing of doing a search. First of all, I think an executive search is definitely the right thing to do, but I also think the timing of when we do it is critical. We've been in a state of flux. We've been upended as a staff, as a community recently. I am hearing that our acting city manager Miller is doing an outstanding job helping to manage this transition period that we're in. I'd like to sort through and talk through if it's possible for the stability of the staff, the leadership team, and acting city manager Miller to work at reinforcing the integrity and ethics here and stabilizing for a period of time that maybe like the time we had Mr. Culpepper in for a time period, that we could offer a contract to acting city manager for a 6-month period, maybe a 1-year period, get through this period of time, and then be able to refocus so that we can have the quality discussion up front that is demanded to ensure that a city manager search process is a successful one for a community. There's been a community in the state that recently went through this process to come out at the other end of it not able to consensus on one of the candidates, and they're starting all over again. If we could take a breath and maybe settle, get through a period of time so that we could be at the other end of it in a position to have a shared vision, really involve members of the public, and not work too hastily to do this. I think that would serve the community well. when I think of the criteria of what we need right now in a city manager, someone who understands what we've been through, someone who knows the community well, someone who knows the region well, someone who acts above board. We have that candidate sitting here working with us right now and could certainly shepherd us for another 6 months, maybe a year, until we settle again. I'd just like to put that thought on the table and, in the spirit of just really working this with as much wisdom and discernment as we can, getting this right.
Any other comments from council? Councilman Hamilton?
I'm pretty on the fence here, but I think I support appointing Mark for 1 year and to let us to settle down. If we only did 6 months, it's already going to be 3 to 4 months to do the search. Especially if we went with MML, that would probably require 4 months. So I feel like the best option is appoint him for a year and then reevaluate. So that's what I would support. If not that, then I would also support MML as the search firm if we do choose that option.
Councilman Baker.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you to the three of you who have spoken before about this. This is a funny conversation to have. I feel like in public because it kind of contains a personnel matter, so it feels a little funny. So I'm going to try to wade through that without, without making any mistakes, I guess. But I appreciate so much what Mark has done so far as the acting city manager, and I think that he's definitely come in and done what he's needed to do for the time being. But I'm of the opinion that our charter says when we have a vacancy in the city manager, we are to replace within 120 days. And the standard operating procedure for doing that is to have an executive search firm put out and interview candidates. And I understand what Councilwoman Hoderick has said, and I hear her concerns about, we've been upended and there's so much going on and we maybe need to take a breath, but I don't think that skipping over that interview process and appointing Mark for 6 months or a year is necessarily doing government best. I think that the best thing to do is to move forward with an executive search firm and interview candidates, and Mark, I'm assuming, would apply, and knowing all the while that Mark is taking care of business as it should be in the meantime. But my big concern, my big feeling is when Mark was appointed as the acting city manager, he wasn't interviewed by any of us. We didn't talk about his overall, our expectations of him and his expectations of us and how that relationship should work. And I think that that's what the executive search process would do, and I think it's essential. And if we were to appoint Mark for a year, it really feels to me like we're skipping over that important piece and doing what would not necessarily be the best thing when we hear things about, you're doing things behind closed doors, or you're not following all the processes. I feel it's important to have a very open public interview process and move forward in that direction. To do anything short of that feels similar to what I would analogize to a bid waiver. And we have to put everything out there and look at the candidates, and maybe there's not a better candidate than Mark. And if that's the case, then that's the case. But I think it's a disservice to the community to not at least go forward and look and see, who would apply, what candidates are out there, and so we can have that opportunity to speak with them. So I do think we need to move forward with this search process. I actually preferred GovHR USA, which is one of the ones we haven't talked about tonight. When you look at the references they put on there, Kent County is it's a big county in the state. They do a lot of things. Rochester Hills, Normal, Illinois, Cambridge, Massachusetts, they're all comparable in many ways to what Troy offers. They're in the Midwest. They're a little more regional. I liked them for some reason, so just to add another name in the mix to make it even more complicated. That's kind of where I am down on this. And I also have to say, Mark has done a good job in what he's done so far. it's not that I think he's done anything wrong or anything. I just think that for transparency purposes, for full, doing government best, we need to explore all of our options and move forward in a timely fashion.
Thank you. Councilman Pennington?
I agree with Councilman Baker. Mark is a city manager. He's acting city manager. If our search committee, for some reason, we can't come upon one good candidate out of the 5 or however many they give us, he will still be the city manager. So I don't think there's a problem in moving forward with the search committee. I don't think we need to take a breath. We've all moved through problems, and I think we deserve the citizens of Troy to move forward.
Is there someone on the list that you like?
Of the 4, there's the one young lady sent us an email almost, taking herself out of the running, but the other 4, I really don't know too much about these companies. One over the other, I really don't have a preference.
Thank you. If I can make some comments, and then we can go around the table again. I certainly agree with Councilman Baker. Pretty much said kind of what I was going to say. I think we do have an obligation, and I don't think we would be doing our due diligence if we rolled this down the road. I kind of feel bad for Mark this evening, because I'm sure he didn't want to be talked about this evening. But I want to share, Mark, that I think you're doing a great job, and just my 2 cents, I hope you throw your hat in the ring. But I think we need to go through the process. I think the community needs to see us go through the process. If the process leads us to a point where we might be jeopardizing the 120-day issue, we can address that very easily. And I would be more than happy to do that. And I'm not sure anybody even asked Mark if he wanted to be appointed for a year. If I could ask you, Mr. Miller, did anybody approach you and ask you if you wanted to be appointed for 6 months or a year?
Yes, Councilwoman Hoderick did ask me, and I said that I would be willing to do it for the best of the city.
Okay, so you were approached. I do agree with the point that we do need to take our time, and I don't see a rush here. And quite honestly, I'd like to bring in a couple of and talk to a couple of these firms, and we've done that in the past. And I think sometimes when you get a one-on-one, if you're struggling with one or the other, sometimes it can sway you one way or the other. I know a lot about MML. They've done searches for the city of Troy in the past, and they're very capable. They are local. I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Abraham that closer to home is better for me. Nothing against the 2 Texas firms, but I might be the only one, but I kind of like Amy Sell because she's local. She's been local, and I like what she did in Holland. The one thing I think that's hurting her is that she doesn't have a lot of experience like other ones do, but I really don't believe you should ever throw somebody out because they don't have a lot of experience. You have to start sometimes, and sometimes you're younger than other firms, but I kind of like the email that she sent us right off the bat, and for some reason I'd like to sit down and have her have a conversation with us. So I don't know how others feel. I'm not in favor of GovHR because of what happened in Grand Rapids. But, you know, my 2 cents is I'd like to see MML come in and Amy Sell and have a short, discussion with them, maybe before next city council meeting, or as soon as we might be able to get that. But that's just my 2 cents. Councilman Henderson.
First off, the firm, I think I only had one last meeting that I wasn't comfortable with, and it was because of the experience. So I know you and I just kind of disagree on that factor, but you know, I agree, a fresh set of eyes, a new person in the business could be a refreshing start. Other than that, it's really kind of a coin flip for me, and I will go with consensus on council with regard to that. You know, whether we pick a team from Texas or a team from Michigan, this is a nationwide search. This isn't just a local search. And we're trying to find the best possible candidate. Why would somebody from Texas or Florida or Arizona want to come to Michigan in the winter? I don't have any idea why that would ever take place. But this is a great community. And a lot of people would strive to be the city manager here. They would love to have this opportunity. And we had, I can't remember the number, but it was upwards of 30 candidates the last time we did this, and a lot of really good ones, a lot of not so good ones, and you know, we just had a lot to pick from. The comparison between us and Grand Rapids, I think, is a little bit, I don't think we should be concerned too much with that. They're a population of about 200,000, and they have an urban center that we don't have. And that became a big controversy with regard to the candidates that they got. And I don't think that we're going to have those same stumbles that they had. So again, I'm flexible with regard to the company that we use, with the exception of one for reasons I've stated. And with regard to Mark Miller, I know Mark threw his name in the hat last time, and I would hope that he throws his name in the hat this time. We're looking for the best possible candidate, and that's why we do these searches and do it the way that we need to for the public. And Mark, you're doing a great job. You know, we had a conversation early on when Mark came aboard. I know he pulled all of us together individually to discuss, you know, goals and aspirations of council. And I know he takes great pride in what he does for the city. And he's doing a great job. So I appreciate stepping up and helping us out in the time that we really needed. So,
Councilwoman Hoderick.
And I did make sure I approached Acting City Manager Miller before having the discussion publicly. And I feel it's important with what we've been through to have this discussion out in the open, and his willingness for that discussion, because it's valuable. I want to be very open that our staff leadership is working real hard with Acting City Manager Miller to move forward seamlessly. And I couldn't be more grateful. Staff has really had our backs, and his leadership has been recognized in conversations to me from numerous people, some members of staff, some who just are aware of what it has unfolded, and you are to be highly commended. And I think I really want to draw the best candidates as well. I'm absolutely on the same page, Councilman Baker, and with what you're saying. The nuance to me is the timing. If you Google Troy right now, you know, there would be some opportunity both for ensuring the stability for staff and for reputationally with the city, that we truly do, working with a firm, get the best candidate. And so I'm still of the mind I understand that the charter says this, but I think we're in an unprecedented moment in our city's history. And I don't mean to be a pain. I'm just really trying to encourage us to be very, very thoughtful about doing this with the greatest amount of discernment that we can. And so that's why I'm making the plea for a period of time, certainly, for sure, doing the search. I, too, was impressed with Amy Sell. Mayor, your suggestion of talking to MML and Amy Sell and seeing, almost interviewing to see if they complement the council as a whole, because we're going to need to really come together to work this process. I thought her separate email to us was very thoughtful, and she's asking all the right questions. Again, I guess it's a two-step. Yes, I'm for that. I'm asking if we could give ourselves some time, give our staff leadership and Acting City Manager Miller time to take us to that other end of this process. Heck, by that time, he may saying, please do a search. I'm ready to step back in my previous role. Or certainly, we would want you to be an applicant at that point. But in this window of time, I really do think, while the charter says this, we can appoint right now and then follow that process. I'm still on that bandwagon.
Any other comments, or you want to take a vote on this resolution, and then Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Just a point of clarification, because I think all of us are being very mindful of what the charter requires, which is 120 days after a vacancy, the position needs to be filled. Now, today is May 7th, and July 10th or thereabouts is about 60 days away. My recollection, based on all 5 respondents, is that this was not a 60-day process. This was going to be 90, 120 days. And Mayor, I think you are absolutely correct. This is not something we want to rush. You don't rush into marriage, so this is another type of relationship you don't want to rush into. I think it requires time, but I'm being very mindful of the gap that we might have between July 10th or so and when we hire someone on a more permanent basis. So I wonder if the city attorney could help us understand what's been done in the past and make sure that whatever we do going forward, we're okay procedurally.
Mayor?
City Attorney Bloom.
Yes, the charter does say that you need to have the position of city manager filled within 120 days. However, it does not specify that the city manager position is an indefinite period of time. So you could have an arrangement, and hopefully Mr. Miller would be willing to continue at that point in time as it gets closer to the 120 days. And you can have an agreement appointing him as the city manager for a definite period of time. So, so again, you don't have a vacancy in the city manager position as long as there's a contract, and that's, again, a subject to negotiation. We can negotiate for a specific term.
Correct. I think you gave us that advice last time, but it's worth hearing again. Councilman Pennington?
Just curious on question. Last time around, did we interview other firms, more than one firm, before we picked on one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you did, and we're happy to facilitate that if that's something that you would like. This is, we gave the proposals to you. You guys are in the driver's seat, but we're happy to help out however we can.
That would be a good idea.
Well, how about if we take a vote on the resolution on the table, and I got one that I'd like to propose. Any other discussion on the resolution on the table? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
No.
Councilmember Baker?
No.
Councilmember Hamilton?
No.
Councilmember Henderson?
No.
Councilmember Hoderick?
No.
Councilmember Pennington?
No.
Mayor Slater?
No. Motion fails. I'll propose that we invite Michigan Municipal League and Amy Sell, LLC, to a study session at the next available city council meeting at 6 p.m. Can't do it next. 2 from now. Would that date be?
June 4th.
June 4th.
Yeah.
For June the 4th? For an interview with City Council? I don't think I need to say any more.
Support. I guess. That's what you're waiting for.
I was waiting for some support. Okay. Moved by the chair and supported by Councilman Baker that we invite the Michigan Municipal League and Amy Sell, LLC to meet with the City Council at a study session on June the 4th at 6 p.m. to discuss executive search for city manager. Councilman Henderson.
Ask Councilman Baker, did you want to add your recommendation into the mix as well? We're going to be here.
Well, this feels funny, but yes, I think that, I do think that third option would be a good opportunity for us just to see, you have the MML, which is very certain type of quantity. Amy Sell, less experienced maybe, but very proactive and very helpful so far. And then I know you're upset with GovHR because of Grand Rapids, but I think it would be a good perspective.
I don't think I'm not upset with them. I'm just.
Well, no, you had concerns. Yeah.
I had concerns, but you know what? Maybe that's explained. More than, I don't have a problem with that. So did you want to move that amendment?
I would like to move that amendment, yes, that we include GovHR USA as part of the study session on June 4th at 6 p.m. for the interview process.
Supported by, moved by Councilman Baker and supported by Councilman Henderson that we amend the resolution to include GovHR USA. Discussion, Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
An hour or an hour 15 minutes seems like it's not a sufficient amount of time to talk to 2 firms, much less 3 firms. And I know we want to be very timely with talking to these 3 firms. I'm concerned we wouldn't have meaningful dialogue because of the amount of time. So perhaps it's over 2 days, perhaps it's or 3 days, or maybe on a night where we don't already have a council meeting.
How much time do you think? Would 2 hours be enough, do you think? Because I'm not opposed to coming in at 5 instead of 6. But to give up a different day, would 5 o'clock, 2 hours seems good enough for me.
Probably make it.
Okay, so I'll move to amend the amendment at 5 p.m. as opposed to 6 p.m.
Support.
Moved by the chair and supported by Councilman Hamilton. We amend the amendment to be 5 p.m. instead of 6 p.m. Further discussion. Councilman Hamilton.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea. My only concern now, just doing the timing in my head, is this is another month. And then if the search took 120 days, that's 4 more months. We're already getting to the point where we're going to bring Mark along for 4 or 5 months anyway, which...
It's possible, but
yeah.
You may interview these firms and they may tell you they can do it in 90 days.
Fair enough. Just a concern, but I'll support...
No, I understand.
I'll support you on the whole chain of amendments. I'll support it. So.
Okay, we're going to vote.
First,
City Clerk Dixon, could you tell us what we're voting on first?
first is the 5 p.m. amendment.
Okay.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Now it's the amendment to include GovHR. Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Now it's the original motion with the two amendments. Oh, no, the original motion to invite the MML and Amy Sell with the two amendments that we just approved.
Understand.
What date?
This is to include everything that we discussed.
Yeah, but the date.
It's June
4th.
June 4th at 5 p.m. with 3 search firms present. Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion passes. Staff, you'll take care of trying to organize that. Thank you. Next on the agenda are regular business. I-1, our board and committee appointments. There are no mayoral appointments this evening or city council appointments. I-2, board and committee nominations. There are no mayoral nominations, and there are no city council nominations this evening. There is no request for closed session this evening, so I-3 is no. I-4 is the approval of the Troy Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, BRA, proposed fiscal year 2018-19 and 3-year budget, and call upon Glenn Lapin, Economic Development Specialist, to introduce this item. Good evening, Glenn.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. At its April 17th meeting, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority recommended approval of its 2018, 2019, and 3-year budget. I'd like to point out that in 2017, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority approved 2 new projects. One is Somerset Shops, which is at Maple Road and Coolidge, the retail center that formerly had Whole Foods in it. And also across the street, Sienna Healthcare and a new senior assisted living complex over on Maple Road near Axtell. Those 2 were added in 2017 along with prior projects with MJR movie theaters and from way back TCF Bank. So those are the current projects currently on the docket for the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, and we have more coming up as well that we're in the process of reviewing. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Glenn. Any questions for Mr. Lapin? Thank you. Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move I-4, approval of the Troy Brownfield Redevelopment Authority proposed fiscal year 2018-19 and 3-year budget.
Support.
By Councilman Henderson, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, that we approve I-4, the approval of the Troy Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, BRA, proposed fiscal year 2018-19 and 3-year budget, as printed in the agenda packet. Discussion? The vote. Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Motion passes. I-5 is the approval of the joint local development finance authority Troy subcommittee proposed fiscal year 2018-19 and 3-year budget. Welcome back, Glenn.
Yes, it's April 23rd meeting. The Local Development Finance Authority recommended approval of the 2018, 2019, and 3-year budget. At the meeting also, you will note in the budget, as you follow along, you'll notice that the revenues for the budget is decreasing, and that is because the state has phased out or is in the process of phasing out the personal property tax, which will impact the budget of the Local Development Finance Authority going forward. Part of that will be reimbursed through the state of Michigan, and that is reflected in the budget going forward in the 2019 budget and the years subsequent to that. The major beneficiary of the Local Development Finance Authority and the Smart Zone here in Troy is Automation Alley. That was the reason why the LDFA began back in 2003. They receive about 40% of the total revenues come in for operations that goes to Automation Alley, and in the coming year we expect those dollars to be spent, or at least a significant portion of those dollars to be spent on repaving of the parking lot at Automation Alley. So they are the beneficiary of that. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Glenn, any questions for Mr. Lapin? Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
I will move I-5, approval of the Joint Local Development Finance Authority Troy Subcommittee proposed fiscal year 2018-19 and 3-year budget as approved, or as written.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, supported by Councilwoman Hoderick, that we approve I-5, the approval of the Joint Local Development Finance Authority Troy Subcommittee proposed fiscal year 2018-19 and 3-year budget as printed in the agenda packet. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion passes. I-6, the approval of the Troy Downtown Development Finance Authority proposed fiscal year 2018-19 and 3-year budget. Call upon Acting City Manager Mark Miller.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. As you can see, the DDA's revenues are continually to grow pretty well. 1.6 million, 1.8, and 1.9. And that is pretty darn good. They also get some state revenue sharing from personal property that is not reimbursed. I would also note in the 2021 year, there is a parking deck repayment revenue of approximately $4 million, and that's from the Somerset collection in relation to the parking deck. It's the first time it's actually showed up in our budget. I would note that the 2013 plan amendment is doing really well, where the TIF capture is dedicated towards the city's bonds that cover the DDA expenses, and that is doing really well. The other thing I would note, there was an amendment to the plan last year that allowed for the QDI program, and we did have 888 take advantage of that. And also, they're allowed to do promotion now, not that we've budgeted any money for that. And so going forward, the DDA is doing very well, and we're servicing that bond debt that's out there.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Miller? Councilman Pennington.
I'd like to move I-6, approval of the Troy Downtown Development Finance Authority proposal fiscal year 2018-19 and 3-year budget as printed.
Support. By Councilman Pennington and supported by Councilman Henderson, that we approve I-6, the approval of the Troy Downtown Development Finance Authority proposed fiscal year 2018-19 and 3-year budget as printed in the agenda packet. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes. I-7, the amendment to Charter 20, the water and sewer rates of the Troy City Code. And I'll call upon Tom Darling, our Financial Services Director, for an intro.
Great, thank you, Mayor. What you have in front of you is the amendment to Chapter 20, which reflects the water and sanitary sewer rates that we discussed during our budget sessions. These rates were developed in consideration of the costs that the city pays for our wholesale water and sanitary sewer services through the Great Lakes Water Authority and the Oakland County Water Resource Commission. If you notice here, the water rate remains the same at $39.30 per MCF, and a slight increase in the sewer rate to $27.40, which represents about a 3% increase over an overall water and sanitary sewer rate of $66.70, which is a 1.2% increase. Very minimal.
Any questions for Mr. Darling? Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move I-7, amendment to Chapter 20, Water and Sewer Rates of the Troy City Code as printed.
Support.
By Councilman Henderson, supported by Councilman Hamilton, that we approve I-7, the amendment to Chapter 20, the Water and Sewer Rates of the Troy City Code as printed in the agenda packet. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes, motion passes. Next is the consent agenda. Is there any council member that wishes to pull a consent agenda item this evening? Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed.
Support.
By Councilman Henderson, supported by Councilman Baker, that we approve all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet. Discussion on that. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Motion passes. If you're here on a consent agenda item, they've all been approved this evening. Next are memorandums and future council agenda items. There are two posted in the agenda packet this evening. K1A is an announcement of a public hearing for May 21st, 2018, which is a conditional rezoning and preliminary site plan review, file number SPJPLN2017-0024, which is the proposed Whispering Park site condominium, 50 units / lots, north of Long Lake, west of John R., parcels 88-20-11-401-001 and 88-20-11-328-003. Section 11, currently zoned R1C, which is one family residential district. Northern 200 feet proposed to be rezoned from EP to R1C. Also posted, K1B is an announcement of a public hearing for May 21st, 2018. The adoption of the Brownfield Redevelopment Plan Number 9 for Midtown Apartments, 205 Park Street. The projected address is subject to change. North of Park Street, east of Livernois, Section 34. Next on the agenda, public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses, and I'll call upon Robert Arking, Troy resident, who wishes to speak. Good evening, Mr. Arking.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, city staff. Thank you. I watched the video of your recent discussion surveying the community for ideas as to what should be done with the city's civic property. I was glad that you seem to have agreed that moving ahead with the original plan as discussed at 2 prior town meetings was not strongly welcomed by the citizens of Troy. I commend you for trying to obtain the citizens' approval regarding the future of the Civic Center. However, I think it important that you realize that most of Troy's residents have not spent weeks or months debating the virtues of one approach over another. We may be opinionated, you probably would say we are opinionated. We may be able to recognize a good plan when we see it, but we are not city planners. Given our deep interest in doing something extraordinary with the Civic Center property, and given, I think, our collective lack of professional knowledge regarding just what something extraordinary means, I think it would be useful if the mayor and city council would consider staging a design competition as one of the options open to the citizenry. As I pointed out before, the design competition could be designed to present the best of a variety of options to the citizens for their consideration, ranging from the existing plan and possibly 4 others. I imagine posting a competitive preliminary design competition for perhaps 2 plans from design groups nationally known for their interest in sustainable cities, sustainable both economically and environmentally, would be an interesting contrast to the existing plan and give us some options. I also imagine that we could have 2 other contestants be nonprofit groups that would be not involved with just housing, but rather focused on the other unexpressed needs of a diverse community, which might include housing, but might include something a lot more, something that we haven't even thought of about, and that might be useful to have. Preliminary plan competition may not be very expensive, as the contestants, I think, would bear most of the cost in the hope of winning the final plan contract. Troy is, as we residents know, an extraordinary city in its diverse demographics, its multiplicity of jobs, its emphasis on good education, and its historical reputation as a deliberately but broadly planned city. We also know that competition stimulates the mind. And whichever group, if any, wins such a design competition will have done so only by fully using their knowledge and imagination to put together a winning and coherent plan. They, of course, can brag to their future clients about that win. But we, the citizens and city council and residents of Troy, will share and enjoy the fruits of their imagination. I urge the council to consider including such a design competition as one of the options available for the citizens of Troy to consider. Thank you for your attentiveness and consideration. May I give the clerk a copy?
Thank you. Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Arking. This is an opportunity for City Council or City Administration to respond to public comment. Any comments from Council? Response? Thank you, Mr. Arking. I think it's an interesting idea. Thank you. Next, there are no council referrals, so next is council comments. Any comments from council this evening? Councilman Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. On Sunday, May 20th, from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Troy Community Center in rooms 304 and 305, there will be a casual celebration of life for Jim Werpatinsky. It will be casual. He did not want anything formal, but we are putting together just an event, an opportunity for people to come together and talk about Jim, share some good stories, and spend some time mourning the loss of a great Troy citizen, but in a celebratory way of who he was and what he did for us. My wife Bethany and I also are doing two other things on each side of that. At 1 p.m., we're going to meet a group of people, and anyone is welcome to join us at the Troy Public Library, where Jim had purchased one of the endowment book bindings on the endowment wall in memory of his late wife Susan, who meant the world to him. We're going to stop there first and kind of appreciate how Jim was honoring Susan, because that meant something to him. About a week before his passing, he and my wife were emailing, and he was emailing pictures of the book for the endowment wall for Susan. And honoring Susan, I think, is actually more important to Jim than honoring Jim. So we're going to try to do both in that same day. And as well as after the celebration at the community center around 5 p.m., Bethany and I and some people will be going out to the Nature Center. It is closed on Sundays, but the trails are open. Jim was also a supporter of the Nature Center and had purchased, it was actually a maple leaf that's not on display at this time anymore, but in honor of Susan. So we're going to go spend just a few minutes out there as well, because we believe that's what Jim really would have wanted. So please, you're welcome to join us at the community center between 2 and 4 on Sunday, May 20th. Jim touched many of you, including, I believe, all of us up here. And it should be a nice experience for those of us who could be there. So that's it.
Thank you. Any comments from council? Next on the agenda are reports. Any council member wish to speak about a report that's on the agenda? Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to comment on P2B, the Troy Medigo Vehicle Services. As we learned during our budget study sessions, there has been this Medigo services, vehicle services are heavily utilized here in Troy, to the point where we've had to turn away residents from being able to use the service because it's fully booked. And part of the reason for that is that the vehicles are out of service and are not being, I'll say, serviced in a timely manner, as much of a timely manner as we'd like. P2B in the memo comments that it may be possible to improve that downtime by bringing those services back in-house, by our fleet services, by bringing in two techs and some diagnostic material. And for me, and it seemed to be pretty important during the budget study sessions, that this is a service that is highly valued, highly critical to our community. And if there was consensus amongst council members that it could be brought to council as soon as the next meeting with an amendment to account for those 2 additional techs and to, I think it was $10,000 in equipment, one-time equipment costs. So I would just like to comment to say I think this is important to our community, and I would be supportive of that and would hope to have consensus on that as well.
Thank you. I was going to bring that up myself, so I'm in consensus. 7 nods. Thanks for bringing that up. Any other comments on the reports? Councilwoman Hoderick?
In the department reports, was the delightful read of the 2018 City of Troy Assessment Roll and Board of Review report. And I wanted to mention it because there is a ton of work that goes into that each year. And a paragraph leapt out at me. The city assessor wrote the report to us and said, if I may read, I must also compliment the staff of the assessing department for the valuable work they do on behalf of the citizens of the city of Troy. The telephone volume is staggering. Staff personally review and change dozens of assessments on top of the many that they each reviewed and were unable to change. The counter traffic is extreme. In spite of the multitude of citizens we spoke with by telephone or dealt with in person, I received not a single complaint. Staff's work this year was again outstanding. And he also said, I should also mention the extraordinary work performed by the citizen volunteers who served on the 2018 Board of Review. Their work is difficult and stressful. This was another great job in a high-stress environment. The chair this year was James Hatch, and also serving were Frank Strahl and Howard Adams. And I just want to thank everyone involved for a task that kind of goes on and a ton of hard work and dealing with citizens who have legitimate concerns and questions that are answered person by person with great care. And just wanted to call that out and express some appreciation for it.
Thank you. Any comments from council on the department reports? Just a thanks for P2C on that commercial business report. Thank you. I don't see that anyone has signed up for comments on items on or not on the agenda from members of the public outside of Troy. There is no closed session this evening, so we are adjourned. Thank you for coming this evening.